America will be wiped out? Inflation in the United States has been increasing steadily over the past year, and it's not giving any good sign of stopping. This will only accelerate as the dollar plunges in value, making goods and services more and more expensive. In many ways, it is going to be pretty bad if you're struggling to make ends meet, or if you're trying to survive on an unsteady income like most people are. Moreover, the United States has been fighting against the rising inflation caused by the crash back in 2008. But it might be too late to do anything about it, because not only will this inflation hurt everyone in America, but the impact will be worse than before. Here is how it could affect you. Hello folks, and welcome back to Econify. Please subscribe if you haven't, like, and tell us what you think in the comments. Today, we're going to observe why the United States of America is doomed to collapse. Be sure to watch it all the way to the end. Alright folks, let's get a move on. America will be wiped out badly. The US has got to figure out how to deal with its incredible over-indebtedness, unsustainable deficits, and massive unfunded entitlement liabilities before it's too late. And not just for itself, but for other countries like Japan that has vast amounts of treasuries. Now here is why. If investors ever get spooked enough to stop buying US debt or dump existing holdings at once, they could trigger a vicious cycle of higher interest rates and even more panicked selling. In short order, such a sell-off would effectively wipe America off the map as an economic power. It is no wonder then that the world leaders are so eager to kick the can down the road in dealing with these problems. But eventually, they are going to have no choice but to face them head-on, and when they do, things are going to get very ugly. Unfortunately, many believe we're already witnessing early signs of what may happen if nothing is done. The crash will be worse than that in 2008. It'll go down worse than anything we have experienced in our lifetimes. And I don't mean just a stock market crash, real estate market crash, or local currency collapse. What I mean is, every aspect of human life as you know it in America will become practically and essentially unlivable. It may not happen the next month, or even the next year, but given the debt load and growing demand for oil to keep things running smoothly, it's fair to say that the day of reckoning is coming. For example, if there were a global shortage of oil tomorrow, America would find themselves unable to fill the gas stations, lines would form at grocery stores as people fought over food, hospitals would quickly run out of supplies, government services would also shut down, and mass panic would ensue. That's what I mean when I say wiped out. It won't be just your money that gets destroyed, it will be your way of life. Why do we say America will be wiped out? Because of the supply-side nature of the COVID outbreak, the Federal Reserve should have responded by reducing the money supply and thereby allowing interest rates to rise. Many workers quit their employment, businesses went out of business, and many others stayed at home rather than to go to work, creating no goods and rendering no services. As a result, we had a lot less money to spend. The Federal Reserve job was to reduce the money supply, to ensure that the money supply fell in tandem with adequate supply. But they actually did the reverse. In other words, they dumped a ton of cash into circulation. They printed up a ton of cash and distributed to everyone, but nobody got any of it. So we drove up demand while simultaneously reducing supply, which is why retail prices have risen so dramatically recently. A return to the gold standard. Now, because the returning to gold standard implies rejecting the dollar standards, it would look pretty bad for the United States. Moreover, due to the country's record trade deficits, the value of the dollar in international exchanges would plummet if the dollar were no longer desired as a reserve. Each year, the United States accumulates a trade deficit of around $1.2 trillion. That's huge, but the only reason it is possible is that everyone accepts dollar as payment for goods and services. If the world reverted to a gold standard, we'd either have to give them gold, which we don't have, or produce goods ourselves, which we can do because we lack the necessary resources. Consequently, the value of the dollar is expected to plummet, and as a result, many common available items are going to be unavailable to American consumers when they go to a grocery store and search for something to buy. That's because they'll be too expensive for most Americans to purchase, and that's bound to have a devastating effect on the standards of living across the country. Debt will destroy America in 10 years. It is not rocket science to know that America's national debt is unsustainable. The situation has been getting worse with each passing decade, and there are no signs that things will get better anytime soon. So just how huge of a threat does our national debt pose? Well, it could potentially destroy the entire country in about 10 years. Well, I know that sounds overly dramatic for some people, but it's true. Many economists believe that once interest rates starts rising rapidly, we'll see an avalanche of debt come crashing down and crash us completely. The American inflation is going to affect everyone. When we think about inflation, we often think about rising prices for consumer goods and services. But what happens when consumer prices rise? Well, that's just one type of inflation. Costs can increase in specific sectors of an economy, like housing, while falling at others. That's a problem, because it means not everyone benefits from higher wages at work. Some may even find themselves worse off if rent or mortgage payment increase faster than their income does. The real threat to Americans is persistent inflation, and particularly when inflation occurs beyond their control. Why do I say that? Because there are two types of inflation: demand pull and cost push. Demand pull inflation occurs when people have more money to spend on goods and services, driving up prices in response to the increased demand. Cost push inflation occurs when cost increases, but there isn't enough supply or product or labor to meet that demand, which leads companies to raise prices to offset those costs. In other words, cost push inflation is caused by factors outside your control, like OPEC's decision last year to cut oil production significantly by 4 million barrels per day. Demand pull inflation might sound like good news. After all, you're making more money. Healthcare will be bad. The most significant impact on America's health will likely come from its failure to keep people healthy. Although Obamacare made it possible for millions of previously uninsured Americans to receive healthcare, experts say much more needs to be done. Recent Republican proposals have focused more on health saving accounts, which would encourage more consumers to purchase health insurance, but that also leaves them responsible for covering their cost until they reach a certain level of savings. Nothing can stop it. It will have a profound impact on the lives of ordinary Americans, particularly on those who have been saving for retirement or those who are planning to do so in the near future. The dollar is going to retire, not you. You'll have to keep working unless you sell your dollars, and dollars develop assets and invest in tangible assets like foreign stocks, real estate, or precious metals. The United States will soon bring out a new fiat currency, and those who hold dollars will find their purchasing power dwindling. America is not in the best of conditions, and it looks like the US economy is going to crash and burn spectacularly. And when it does, we are going to see some interesting monetary experiments take place. It won't end well. We should learn from our past mistakes. America has always done things its way, but it may have come at a too high of a price. So now we're paying that price with interest. The only question now is, what's going to happen when we default? What do you think? Is America still an empire of prosperity, or are we a nation in decline? Let's get your opinion in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to get notified immediately an awesome new video like this is out.